Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek. Bit of news tonight, news nuggets you could say. So let's just hit the intro and we'll get on with it, shall we? Right, I'm back. So let's get into the news. By the way, before we start, don't forget, like. Is it going to come on? There we go. Like and subscribe. And hit the notification bell. Join me on my social medias. All that stuff. You know the drill by now. Here's the news. Right, first off, this is from a couple of days ago. Yesterday actually. Sci-fi drama Westworld cancelled by HBO after 4 seasons. This is from ABC News. As usual, all the links are in the description below. And I shall reiterate, like and subscribe. And share the videos and drop a comment. All that stuff. Right, HBO's pulled the plug on Westworld. It's Emmy-winning sci-fi drama. I've got to admit, I saw season 1, I saw season 2. Really enjoyed season 1. Thought season 2 were okay, although I thought it did go a bit peculiar towards the end. Pardon me. But season 3, I think I started watching episode 1 of season 3 and thought, nah, it's not for me now. It's gone too far from what it was originally, in my opinion. So stop watching it. So there you go. Anyway, so HBO's pulled the plug on Westworld. It's Emmy-winning sci-fi drama. The series cancellation came less than 3 months after its 4th season concluded in August, which I hadn't seen. The cast included Evan Rachel Wood, Ed Harris, Jeffrey Wright, Aaron Paul, whatever. And now how do you pronounce it? It used to be Tandy Newton, but then she decided to go all, going back to my roots, and she's now called Tandy Newton. I don't know how to pronounce it. She's Tandy Newton. Newton earned a Best Supporting Actress Emmy in 2018, and the series received more than 50 nominations and won 9 awards from the TV Academy. And it deserved them, particularly for the first season, because it was amazing. In a statement Friday, HBO thanked series creators and executive producers Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy for taking viewers on a mind-bending odyssey, raising the bar at every step, and saluted the immensely talented actors and crew. In October, Nolan told The Hollywood Reporter that he hoped HBO would order a 5th season to properly end the series that debuted in 2016 as a rating success for the cable channel. Viewership fell in the 3rd season and again in the 4th because it went rubbish. Like the 1973 film that inspired it, also titled Westworld, the series was initially set in a Western-style amusement park that allowed guests to realise their fantasies with the help of androids. The show later broadened into a artificial intelligence versus human global conflict. A global. We have been privileged to tell these stories about the future of consciousness, both human and beyond, in the brief window of time before our AI overlords forbid us from doing so, Nolan and Joy's Kilter Films said in a statement. Oh, that's it. But yeah, as I said, I enjoyed season 1 and season 2 for the most part, although towards the end it did get a bit weird. Season 3 wasn't for me, and I haven't seen season 4. The original film Westworld is a timeless classic. It is amazing. You can see he wrote Jurassic Park. It was based on a novel by Michael Crichton, or did he just write it for the screen? But he directed it. I think he directed it. Yes, Michael Crichton directed it as well. Westworld, I do believe. And it's a great film with Yul Brynner as the gunslinger. That was followed up by a film called Future World starring Peter Fonda, which were okay. It were okay. But that kind of led in to a short-lived TV series called Beyond Westworld. I think it was called that. That I used to watch. It used to be on late at night here in the UK, and I used to watch that, but I think it only had, like half a season, a handful of episodes. But what I saw, I quite enjoyed. It were about, a mad scientist using his robots to replace politicians and scientists and things like that. And, it were a lot of fun. But anyway, Westworld's gone. Well, they shouldn't have strayed too far from the original story, should they? In my opinion. So you get what's coming to you, don't you? But there's going to be a lot of cancellations at HBO and Warner Brothers. It's coming, in it. David Zaslav is swinging his axe. Right, anyway. Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin says Gandalf should have stayed dead in Lord of the Rings. George R.R. Martin believes Gandalf didn't need to be resurrected by J.R.R. Tolkien. And he's just showing really that you don't really understand what Gandalf was. Anyone who has read or watched Lord of the Rings would know about Gandalf's death and resurrection in the Two Towers. However, there's one person who doesn't agree with the idea of the wizard being brought back to life. Game of Thrones creator George R.R. Martin says that J.R.R. Tolkien's novels would have worked out better if Gandalf stayed dead. For a long time, I used to think that he called himself George R.R. Martin because he wanted to be like J.R.R. Tolkien. But then I found out that his middle initials are actually R.R.R. But he didn't have to use them, did he? I think he's just using that similarity for his own benefit, and I suppose fair enough. George R.R. Martin was a guest on the Bullseye podcast where he shared his opinion on characters being resurrected in fiction. I do think that if you're bringing a character back, that a character has gone through death, that's a transformative experience, even back in those days of Wonder Man and all that. I loved that. I have no idea what he's talking about. I loved the fact that he died, and although I liked the character in later years, I wasn't so thrilled when he came back, because that sort of undid the power of it, Martin said. He then pointed out that he disagreed with how J.R.R. Tolkien decided to resurrect Gandalf. Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing because he's taking pot shots at the greatest fantasy writer of all time. Much as I admire Tolkien, I once again felt like Gandalf should have stayed dead. That was such an incredible sequence in Fellowship of the Ring when he faces the Balrog on the Khazad-dûm, and he falls into the gulf, and his last words are, "Fly, you fools," Martin stated. What power that had, how that grabbed me, he continued. Then he comes back as Gandalf the White, and if anything, he's sort of improved. I never liked Gandalf the White as much as Gandalf the Grey, and I never liked him coming back. I think it would have been an even stronger story if Tolkien had left him dead. It's an interesting thought, considering that Gandalf plays an important role after he returns as Gandalf the White. Still, Martin is entitled to his own opinion, and perhaps he can share his own ideas on how the wizard should have been brought back. Oh, there you go. But I think he's missing the point, isn't he? I think he's thinking of it in his own, Song of Ice and Fire universe, which essentially is it's really a fantasy series, but it's about people, isn't it? Really, that's got dragons in and the occasional other monster, like the weird baby creature thing. Smoke baby, whatever they called it, and stuff like that. But it's mostly about people, humans, normal humans, living their lives, dying, etc. Whereas Lord of the Rings is about lots of different races and types of creatures. And Gandalf wasn't human. He looked human, but he wasn't human. He was a Maiar, which were essentially an angelic being, weren't they? They were a spirit being in human form. When they appeared as the wizards, and when he died in that form, he just he changed, became another one, didn't he? So that's that. So not to think of him as a human dying. It was just that form died and he went back again, in a similar form, which is why he kind of lost his memory a bit at the beginning, didn't he? He didn't realise that he was Gandalf, did he? Anyway, but that's that. So that's George R.R. Martin having his say about Gandalf. I'm missing the point entirely. Right, Star Trek news from now until the end of this news bulletin. Right, Star Trek proves the Borg could assimilate DS9's changelings. This is a bit of nonsense, this really, but... Sorry, I'm a bit snuffly, aren't I? Let me have a little drinky. Ah, dear. In Star Trek Prodigy, the Borg were able to assimilate Zero despite being a non-corporeal Medusan, so they could do the same to DS9's changelings. And there's a photo of a Borg and the changeling. Spoilers for Star Trek 9 Prodigy Series 1, Episode 12, Let Sleeping Borg Lie, which I have seen. You know what? I really enjoyed it, to be honest. Move that over a bit. There you go. The Borg returned in Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 12, and the cybernetic villains proved they have the power to potentially assimilate Star Trek Deep Space Nine's changelings. I disagree with that. I don't agree with it at all. The teenage crew of the USS Protostar boarded a Borg cube in the hopes of finding a way to deactivate the living construct, a doomsday weapon against Starfleet installed on the starship by the diviner, John Noble. Zero, Angus Imrie, merged his mind. I always thought we were a woman. I always thought we were female, Zero. Merged his mind with the Borg collective, but his attempt to ask for a solution about the living construct fell on dead ears. Instead, the Borg quickly assimilated Zero. Yeah, they did. I found that a bit peculiar, but anyway. What was shocking about Zero's conversion into a Borg drone in Star Trek Prodigy Episode 12 is that Zero is Medusan, and thus he is a non-corporeal energy being. Yet Zero, not having a physical body, didn't impede the Borg, who proved they had the technology to assimilate the Medusan. Nor were the Borg susceptible to the Medusan's ability to drive anyone who sees their true form insane. Zero also conveniently has a cyborg shell, just like most Borg drones. But the ease with which the Borg assimilated Zero indicates that the cybernetic hive would have no issues doing the same to Star Trek Deep Space Nine's villains, the changelings. What? The shapeshifters are liquid-based beings. Well, they're not liquid-based beings, are they? They haven't got a form, have they? But this probably that looks like a liquid. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. But this probably wouldn't stop the Borg from possessing the Founders any more than being an energy-based Start again. But this probably wouldn't stop the Borg from possessing the Founders any more than being an energy-based Medusan saved Zero. The Borg has technology from countless assimilated worlds, and it's very likely they would solve the changelings and make them drones if they ever met. Well, maybe they would, I don't know, but maybe they wouldn't. They couldn't assimilate species 8372, could they? Have I got that right? 8472. Well, what are it now? Anyway, them. They couldn't assimilate them, could they? Because their DNA was totally different, and maybe the DNA of the changelings would be totally different. I don't know. Maybe it won't make any difference. But they never came across each other, did they? Because the changelings were in the Gamma Quadrant, the Borg were initially in the Delta Quadrant. The Borg have appeared in multiple Star Trek TV series and in Star Trek First Contact, while the Dominion was the sole purview of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They were mentioned in Star Trek Insurrection, the movie, where they were created to be the series' primary villains. Therefore, despite being among the franchise's top villains, the Borg and Odo's René Auberginois, the late great René Auberginois, people have never canonically met in Star Trek. The Borg hail from the Delta Quadrant, while the changelings invaded from the far-flung Gamma Quadrant. But there is no known instance of the Borg and shapeshifters encountering each other when either was in the Alpha Quadrant, as Alpha and Beta Quadrant. As such, Star Trek fans have debated for decades about what would happen if the Borg met the Founders. The Borg had no role in the Dominion War that waged for years on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It's possible the machine hybrids were aware of the Dominion's attempt to conquer the Alpha Quadrant and simply stayed back to wait and see who would be victorious. Concurrent to the Dominion War, the Borg stalked Captain Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, and the USS Voyager throughout the Delta Quadrant in Star Trek Voyager, well, from Season 4 onwards. But once the Dominion lost the war and retreated to the Gamma Quadrant, the chances of them meeting the Borg decreased exponentially. However, there's one way the Borg could prove they could conquer a Founder. They may one day encounter one of the 100 changeling infants sent into the galaxy like Odo was and assimilate it. They kind of forgot about that, though, didn't they, in Deep Space Nine? They'd sent out 100 changeling children. I'm going to say something, I forgot what it was. That's the thing about Star Trek Prodigy. It's supposed to be set in the Delta Quadrant. I don't really understand where in the Delta Quadrant it's set. As in episode 11, they come across a Federation communications outpost with one officer on board, who I think is a what do they call them? Denobulan. I think it's a Denobulan. I think. But then this construct thing from the Protostar makes the outpost destroy itself. Spoilers, by the way. Makes the outpost destroy itself, and this lone officer who's gone a bit stir crazy, cabin fever sort of thing, goes in the only escape pod, and we never see him again. Maybe we'll come across him in the future. But yeah, so I'm a bit unsure as to where in the Delta Quadrant it is, because we see Kazon earlier on in season 1 of Prodigy, and they're way over the other side of the Delta Quadrant, the far side of the Delta Quadrant. But I don't know. Anyway, the Dominion has been mentioned a few times since Star Trek Deep Space Nine went off the air, but there has been no attempt to bring the Changelings, the Jem'Hadar or the Vorta back as Star Trek villains. The Dominion seems to be considered an invention that's strictly bound to DS9, and they have not crossed over officially with any other Star Trek series. They are mentioned, as I said, in Star Trek Insurrection. A female changeling resembling, and also a nemesis as well. A female changeling resembling a founder did appear in Star Trek Discovery Season 4, but it wasn't confirmed that she was from Odo's race, as there are other shapeshifters in Star Trek, like the Cameloid played by Iman in Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country. They're also one in The Next Generation as well. In what episode was it? I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's like the Doe fan or something like that. The Borg versus the Dominion is a Star Trek alien dream match that would settle once and for all if the Borg can assimilate changelings. Perhaps Star Trek Prodigy can make it happen one day. Anyway, there we go. I'm enjoying Star Trek Prodigy. I think it's quite good. Earlier on, I was thinking it's not really Star Trek. Yeah, it's got a Starfleet ship in it, but it's not a very good Starfleet ship. I'm not keen on the Protostar. But as it's going on, it's actually getting more Trek-like, and I'm starting to enjoy it. And the crew, this young crew of kids that's on this ship, they're starting to wear the Starfleet uniforms a little bit more, and they're starting to act a bit more Starfleety under the guidance of hologram Janeway. But now we've got the real Janeway in it, Vice Admiral Janeway. So she's in the Prometheus, looking for the Protostar and Chakotay, who we also saw in episode 12 or 11, whatever. So anyway, yeah, but I don't see why the Borg couldn't assimilate the changelings, or if they can't, well, fair enough, they can't. But the fact that they assimilated Zero was a bit weird, because it wasn't your standard assimilation, with tubules, and because obviously they wouldn't usually assimilate you by injecting you with nanobots, don't they? Nanites. And they take over your body and start creating Borg implants and stuff. But obviously being non-corporeal, being like an energy being, that won't work, would it? Or would it? I don't know. Did I say her then? I told you, I always think of Zero as a female. I don't know why. Anyway, of course she's got a voice, or his voice is a bit female. Anyway, but never mind. Right, Star Trek Voyager fan favourite actor wants to return to the franchise. Of course, they all do, don't they, now? Robert Picardo, by the way, can you read that? Yep. Robert Picardo, who plays the EMH and Dr. Zimmerman in Star Trek Voyager, has spoken about how he could return to the sci-fi franchise. Star Trek Voyager's Robert Picardo has a great idea for how he could make his return to the sci-fi series franchise. Picardo played the EMH, the holographic doctor aboard the USS Voyager for all 7 seasons of Star Trek series Voyager. Star Trek Voyager, oh God. Alongside Kate Mulgrew as Captain Janeway and Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9, who didn't join the crew until season 4, by the way. Picardo, not to be confused with Star Trek Captain Picard, gave one of the best, if not the best, performances in the whole TV series. His character's prickly nature, combined with his sense of self-importance, ensure that the EMH will go down as one of the most beloved Star Trek characters of all time. The EMH also had one of the strongest arcs throughout Voyager's 7 seasons. He gained the ability to move around the ship outside of sickbay thanks to his mobile emitter, developed strong, if difficult, relationships with the rest of the crew, and began to campaign for the rights of sentient holograms, much like Data's journey in The Next Generation. Now, Picardo has spoken about how the EMH might return in a context where many classic Star Trek actors are coming back to the franchise, especially with the Star Trek Picard Season 3. Because all the Next Generation ones are coming back, aren't they? Speaking to the companion, Picardo said, "I could easily play Doc Zimmerman again because Zimmerman is in the same timeline as certain of those Star Trek series. To me, it's a funny idea. What I would find very funny is to have the Doctor and Zimmerman working together." Well, they've done that before, haven't they, in Voyager. He expanded on the idea further, saying, "Let's say you're a 40-year-old person. Imagine your 18-year-old self working side by side with you during the day on some very critical or important mission. Wouldn't that annoy the hell out of you? I think there are a lot of comic possibilities if you can age down the Doctor to do a scene. Now that there's a giant age gap between the Doctor, who's 41 or 42, and his late 60s creator." The reason why Picardo's idea for his return to Star Trek focuses on Dr. Zimmerman, the human creator of the EMH, who Picardo also played on Voyager, is because, like any human, he has aged in the time since Voyager ended. However, as a hologram, the character of the EMH himself wouldn't have aged, hence why Picardo believes it would make more sense for him to play the creator. Either way, it's not too hard to see the way in which Picardo could return to Star Trek. It's unlikely that he will be in the upcoming season of Star Trek Picard, but like Kate Mulgrew as Janeway, he could reprise his role in the two Star Trek animated series, Prodigy or Lower Decks. Aren't he been in Lower Decks? I don't know, because I don't watch it because I hate it. For more Starfleet fun, check out the Star Trek movies in which Picardo makes a cameo as the EMH ranked. Oh, well, whatever. Yes, he appears in First Contact, only Star Trek First Contact, which is a good scene. But yeah, he could appear in it, but he could appear as the hologram, as the EMH, but just an older version. You know, they could adjust his program so he appears to age alongside, you know, his crewmates. I mean, they could do that. It wouldn't take much, would it? But yeah, of course he wants to come back. They all do, don't they? It's work, isn't it? They all want to do it. Right, finally, Zoe Saldana comments on Star Trek 4 getting delayed yet again. Not delayed, it's just not happening. Star Trek 4 just cannot seem to make any traction. J.J. Abrams Star Trek 4, the Kelvin-verse Star Trek 4, not Star Trek 4, the Voyage Home. Star Trek 4 just cannot seem to make any traction, and Zoe Saldana is weighing in on the movie's current status. And there she is. I have to move this over a little bit again, aren't I? There we go. Star Trek movie series star Zoe Saldana has an update on Star Trek 4. For years, there have been many false starts on making a fourth Star Trek film from the modern reboot movie series, known to Trekkies as the Kelvin timeline. I do apologise, I'm very snuffly. The movie finally started to make some real traction when it was announced that Matt Shackman had been tapped to direct, but those plans changed when Marvel Studios gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, which was the chance to direct the new Fantastic Four movie. Without a director in place, Paramount Pictures wound up pulling Star Trek 4 from its release schedule. It had previously been given a set release date for December 2023, but with the delay, it's now once again unclear when we can expect to see the long-gestated sequel. Pardon me. I think it's been removed now from the list of upcoming movies from Paramount. Saldana, who plays Uhura in the films, shared the latest update in Deadline's 20 Questions podcast recently. She says that while everyone is eager to get started on the movie, Saldana suggests, they weren't even told that there were going to be a movie when J.J. Abrams announced it. Anyway, Saldana suggests that there were some issues with scheduling, as it can be hard to get all of the busy cast members together at once. With that said, she also alludes to other reasons delaying the project. From the interview, we were in touch with JJ, and we were trying to sort of see if we were going to be able to see past this fall. I don't think it was possible. I have more sort of ideas that maybe it was just schedules. We couldn't manage to get a whole cast and a whole crew to come together, but I think as well it has something else to do with the project. Because it's not going to happen. I know that we're all on the same page. We would love nothing more than to be able to come back. When will it's not going to happen. When will Star Trek 4 be released? Never. It's not a surprise that Saldana doesn't exactly know what all is going on with Star Trek 4. The cast members all seem to be kept in the dark on what's happening with the project, as some have noted after the sequel was officially announced with Shackman directing. Many of the actual cast members hadn't even known that the film was greenlit by Paramount when it was announced earlier this year. Because it wasn't greenlit by Paramount. It was just J.J. Abrams announcing it. I think everybody was like, did you hear about this? Hang on, gone too far. There we go. I think everybody was like, did you hear about this? Pine said, of getting blindsided by the news, happy but surprised about it. We're usually the last people to find out, but I do know we're all excited. Whenever they want to send us a script, we're ready for it. We haven't seen a script, I don't know anything about it. Star Trek 4 would have been released on December 22nd, 2023, if there weren't any problems. As of now, with its release pulled from the schedule, it is unclear when the film will be released. Never. At this point, most fans are looking at Star Trek 4 as a case of believe it when you see it, given how many false starts the project has already had. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not now. Not now. The TV Star Treks are continuing on and starting to get better. In my opinion, they are starting to get better. And season 3 of Picard is supposed to be amazing. Robert Marbinet says it's amazing. The guys at the Popcast, Shane and Brian, they say it's amazing. They've seen it. And I've heard some other people have seen it and said it's really good. So fingers crossed when it's on in February, we'll all be amazed and it'll be really good. But I wasn't blown away by the trailer, I must admit. But anyway, that's your lot. But Star Trek 4, it's not happening. It's not happening, I don't think. I think with more chance of getting a Strange New Worlds or Discovery movie before we get a Kelvinverse movie. But, he's touting for work, isn't he, JJ? What with his Warner Brothers deal seemingly falling through. And he doesn't seem to be doing a lot with Lucasfilm these days. But we will see. Right, that's it then. So, as I said, not many stories. It was mostly Star Trek, but we'll leave it there. Apologies for my sniffles. Don't know where that came from. I was fine before I started this, but then I started reading and my sniffles started. Anyway, wherever you are in the galaxy, look after each other. And until next time, hang on, where is it? Until next time, I'll say this.